Hi, I'm Ruthie and this is Brick Girl Studios. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about what it's like to be a star photographer, the pros and the cons. Let's go. I have worked twice as a staff photographer, once at a creative agency and once internally at a beverage brand. So let's start with the pros. The first pro is salary. If you are a freelance photographer, you will know that when the jobs drift into your life can be a little mysterious. It's sort of a risky business being freelance. But as a staff photographer, you are a full-time employee of the company. Just like the creative director, the art directors, the copywriters, you receive an annual salary and all the benefits that go along with it. And each month you know where your rent is coming from, which frankly was a dream. The rough salary for being a staff photographer, in my experience, has been between the 50,000 to 100,000 range, but most likely you'll see jobs advertised around 60,000 to 80,000, more or less. The second pro about working as a staff photographer is that you get to be a member of a team. Freelancing can be kind of a lonely experience. You often dip in and out of other people's teams. When you work for a brand, you work with their art directors, their creative team for the span of the length of the project. But then you're back in your studio, possibly alone, editing. So working in a team, and a team that you stay with week upon week, month upon month, is a wonderful experience. You get to bounce creative ideas off each other. You get to know how you work and function as a member of that team. So if you're looking for more of a group environment where you're working among creative people every day and not alone in a studio in Dumbo, going slightly mad like a lunatic because you're here alone all the time, then I think a staff photographer may be the role for you. The third pro is that you are working with someone else's money. I love this. So the budgets are often much bigger at a creative agency than they would be if you were working directly with the client. It's a huge organism that's been built up over years, and the money that they charge has to cover everyone's salaries, office space, and so on. So they often have really large budgets to work for. I remember we did a shoot at this gorgeous townhouse in Williamsburg. We were shooting for an alcohol brand, I'll say, and we got to shoot all over this house. I had a great team, some models. It was fantastic, and it's an experience that comes up as a freelancer, but rarely, I think. So working with other people's money and their contacts and connections to bigger brands is definitely a pro of working as a staff photographer. Okay, now let's talk about the cons, which is my favorite part because I'm a miserable Brit. And the first con is also salary, because as a freelance photographer, I find I can make the equivalent amount of money, if not a little more, as a freelancer, and I'm not tied to a 9-to-5 position. In fact, last month, for example, I worked solidly and made enough money that I don't need to work for maybe the next 3 to 4 months. And it's a much nicer way to live. When you work for a corporation in America, even in an art department, in an artistic position, you're still at the mercy of the capitalist system. When I was offered my first job, they told me they had a generous vacation package of 2 weeks a year, which I thought was actually a joke when they said it. Because in the UK, 28 days is mandated for holiday. It's illegal to give an employee less than that. So when they offered me 2 weeks, I immediately went on Google to see if this was actually legal. And turns out it is. In America, they don't actually have to give you any holiday. And so I just felt that they owned me. Not only did I not have a lot of vacation time, but my Slack notifications would be going off 10 o'clock at night. Did that prop arrive for the shoot tomorrow? And it's just not a way that I want to live my life. If the job had been 9-to-5 with 4 weeks holiday and a decent salary, maybe I would have stayed with it. But I think for me as an artist, I just need freedom. The third con for me, and this may sound a little odd, is the lack of creative freedom. When you work directly with a brand and a brand comes to you, it's often because they love your style and your perspective and the way you shoot photos and tell a story. But when you work in-house, you're often executing other people's ideas. So if you enjoy just being a technical photographer and just being in the studio and just shooting photos and editing them, then this may not be a con for you. But for me, I really love the creative process. I love the conceptualizing of an idea, of building it out, of running it by art directors, picking the colors, the props, the execution, what's the story, the messaging. That's what's exciting to me. So as a staff photographer, I was rarely offered that opportunity. And it seems that big brands who have an established look and style are afraid of new things. And I completely understand why. If you've got something that's not broken, why fix it? But it meant that any new or interesting concepts and ideas I had were often dismissed for me shooting the same thing over and over again. And that's what I found, is that the process became very repetitive, where I could practically do the photos in my sleep. And even though we had creative meetings, we always ended up back with the first idea. So that's been my experience. There can be a lack of creative freedom, but again, it can depend on the agency or the brand you're working for. So those are my pros and cons for being a staff photographer. If you have any other questions, please let me know in the comments. And if you've been a staff photographer, I'd love to hear your experience. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.